and react to 3 disturbing school horror stories animated. Okay, let's just get into the video. Story number 1. The man
Our
who
school began its classes after the long holiday of Christmas. The corridors were once again flooding with laughter of young boys and girls. I was happy to see my best friend after a long Christmas holiday. We went to have lunch in the cafeteria and shared our experiences with our holidays. The school I study is one of the biggest schools in our city. We have long hallways, huge classes, and a wide playground.
Wow.
I often walk to school with my best friend Matt, who lives nearby my house. One day, when we were walking toward school, Matt pointed to a poster hanging on a nearby tree. It was a poster of a man. The headline read, "Wanted."
What the? He looks like a zombie.
Dead or alive. And the bottom line, it mentioned, escaped convict. We discussed our entire way to school that this person has surely done something really bad for being on the list of a wanted criminal. After reaching the school, our principal announced everyone to gather in the playground. A group of local cops was also present there. At first, none could guess what was going on, but then our principal told everyone that the cops are looking for a highly dangerous criminal, so we are being instructed to call 911 or tell our adults if we ever spot this guy. Also, the teachers became very conscious of every kid in school. They told our parents to come get us after school when possible. For those who travel, should go home in groups and not stay out after dark. I became a bit upset as I just got back to school and wanted to play basketball after school hours with my friends. Our coach canceled all our basketball practice for the alarming situation and shifted it to an early schedule. I am not an early riser, but for the sake of basketball, I scheduled my routine accordingly. The practice used to begin at 6 a.m. sharp, hence being late resulted into punishments. Our school often pressurized on cleanliness and services, so for those who came late into practices, were often given tasks such as swiping school corridor or working in the cafeteria or arranging books in library and so on. One night, Matt and I had a sleepover at one of our friends' house. We decided to play a video game before going to bed. Everyone planned to play for an hour as we had basketball practice the next morning. After an hour, Matt and my friend Jack went to bed, but I wanted to play a bit more. I told them I will wake them up at the right time so they don't have to worry about me. But in the morning, I obviously couldn't wake up on time. It was 6:30 a.m. when I opened my eyes. I realized my friends have already left for their practices, and I cursed them from my heart for not waking me up. When I reached the ground, I saw them warming up and laughing at me. I knew they played a hideous prank on me so they could see me punished. I ran to our coach and started to apologize. Though being one of the coach's favorites, the coach told me that I will be punished like everyone else. Are the same for everyone. Without arguing much, I agreed with him. The coach told me to clean the backside of our playground and get the tools from the school basement. The backside of our school ground was a popular smoking zone among the high school seniors, hence it was dirty all the time. Every day, our sweeper used to clean that area after school hours, and the next day, the seniors used to mess it up again. I put my backpack on the ground and walked towards the school building to get the tools from the basement. As I reached the school basement and opened a dark,
I think the wanted guy will be in there.
hallway down the stairs stood in front of me. I slowly walked down and turned on the light switch underneath the passage. The basement is generally filled with school supplies, extra chairs and tables, and all other things. The bucket were kept in the corner, so I walked to get it. As I took the tools and was about to leave, I noticed a bunch of tattered clothes lying on the basement ground. There were a bunch of plastic water bottles lying beside them, too. The basement was very tidy anyway, so I thought these are nothing but some old school junk. One thing that stuck in my mind is a foul smell of burnt tobacco. The smell was floating all around the basement. I told myself, someone might be secretly smoking here, but who can that be in this early morning? As I kept thinking, standing alone, I realized I'm wasting my time and that I have to get back to the cleaning so that I can join the practice as soon as possible. I got upstairs and closed the basement door. One other weird thing I noticed is that the lock of the basement door was broken.
In there.
I thought to let the coach know about it in case students are into smoke there, which is really not safe because the school can catch fire if they leave burning buds down there. As I was walking towards the backside of the playground and saw Matt and Jack still making fun of me, I ignored them and went ahead. The backside of our school playground is secluded, which is why it is a popular smoking spot among the students. All of our school garbage bags are kept here, so the place always carries a stinking odor. As I swept the burnt buds from the ground, I kept cursing my friends even more. The smell around me made me nauseous. Still,
Ew.
I kept on doing my job. I didn't realize what time it was, but I was almost done just when I heard something. It was coming from the corner where the garbage bags are kept. It might be a squirrel or some small animal, so I dumped the dirt into a nearby dustbin and decided to head back to the playground. As I turned back the first step, I heard a terrible sound that heightened my senses and fear. It was the sound of someone eating vigorously, as if
Ew.
someone was munching food like a hungry dog. I looked back to see what was going on, and what I noticed made my heart skip out of my throat in fear. There was a guy sitting behind those garbage bags facing his back towards me. He was eating leftovers from the cafeteria from those garbage bags.
Or
I
was
could
it?
see white worms crawling down those bags to take out those rotten foods. I know I should have been
Ew.
smart and ran to tell the coach about this guy, but I made a really dumb move. I called out the guy and said in a broken voice, Hey, are you all right? You shouldn't be here." The guy suddenly stopped and looked back at me. I never knew
Ew.
what hell looks like, but when he looked at me, I felt what hell is.
Oh my
His
gosh.
eyes were red and white worms were hanging from his mouth. He was chomping a bad piece of half-eaten burger. I immediately recognized his face. It was the convict who broke prison. He suddenly got out of his pocket and said in a cold, horrifying voice, "I am going to kill you, and then burn your body, and then eat you like these worms." I was beyond terrified.
Blech.
I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The man started to walk
I was
towards
like
me in a feeble way.
smiling by watching
I
this.
noticed his one leg was injured as he kept limping towards me. Luckily, my coach came to check on me, and as he saw that guy, he too recognized him. He immediately jumped on that man and pushed him away. The man started to hit my coach, but he was too weak, and our coach is a strong, healthy man. He knocked that guy out with one single punch.
Ooh.
I started to scream and call for help. All my friends came running and noticed the entire vicious situation. The cops were called immediately, and they came and arrested the escaped convict. Our school was searched thoroughly, and it came out that the guy broke into the school basement. He might have stayed the entire Christmas down there to save himself from the cold outside.
Bruh. Wait, guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing. You saw nothing. Okay, let's just watch this.
He injured himself while jumping the jail fences, which is why he was limping.
Oh.
Not just these. I read in the newspaper the next morning about his arrest. He was convicted with charges of first-degree murder. He burnt his neighbor's house, and when the police got there, he was seen eating the burnt flesh from his dead neighbor's body.
Oh.
I am grateful that my
Nice.
coach didn't get hurt while saving me. The more I think about that day, the more I understand that he didn't just threaten me that day. He actually meant it. If my coach didn't come back to check on me, he might have done the same thing to me, which he did to his neighbor. I really hope he stays behind bars forever, and we
He
never meet
won't.
again. Over here.
Okay, this is another one, but I'm sure that the other 2 ones will be like boring, so I'll just watch this one. Horror. I don't
This
get
happened to
easily
me
scared.
when I was around 14 years old. I was at a sort of religious class located far from our main school building. I was drawing my cartoon characters, waiting for my teacher. However, an hour had passed and he didn't come. One of my classmates went out to see what was wrong, and it turned out that our teacher didn't arrive yet. So we had a bit longer. After she told us that information, we continued waiting. I started drawing again until one of my friends pulled on my sleeve and whispered, "Something is wrong with CT." I looked at CT, who was sitting at the back
Oh
with
my
the loud
gosh.
group. She wasn't saying anything or laughing. Well, it was quite weird seeing her like that, because she was the one who always talked a lot in that group. And then I saw that she was holding a small piece of black cardboard and a pocket knife. Since we had an art class that day, I thought that she might have been doing her homework at first, but I froze when I glanced at her the second time. She started carving something on the cardboard, and very
What the-
aggressively. I couldn't see what she was carving, but she then woke up and outside of the classroom and stood there staring at something. Aina poked my shoulder, signaling that I should check out CT's cardboard. So I sneakily went to her seat to grab the piece of cardboard she left on the table and went back to my seat. As soon as we flipped the cardboard over, we got goosebumps all over our bodies. Something was written on it.
Pete, Tech, Cool, Deepa, what the
The words meant we didn't disturb them, they disturb us in our language.
Oh.
Aina and I looked at each other. When I got up to return the piece of cardboard, CT was already in her seat and stared at me with a scrutinizing look on her face. I sat down and slid the piece of cardboard under my desk. All of a sudden, I had the sudden urge to know what the heck was going on. So I got up and went towards her with Aina. "Hey CT, how's it going?" I asked. But she didn't answer my question. Then I could hear Aina whispering the Lord's Prayer, and my fear alarm started buzzing again. Then Aina tried to talk to CT, but for some reason, she suddenly shuddered. And I knew the reason. CT started to mumble the exact words that she had carved onto the cardboard, but this time her voice changed. She sounded like a demon. Her voice was deeper and lower than a man's, and her eyes simultaneously started to turn white. Her mumbling was getting louder, and now she began to scream while shaking her whole body. Everybody in the class stood on their seats and watched what CT was doing. Before long, CT suddenly stopped, dropped her face slowly down on the desk, and began to sleep. I quickly turned to my seat and tried to take out the cardboard,
But it wasn't there.
it was not there. I searched all over the classroom, even inside of the bin, but it was gone. The next morning, I went to CT and asked her what she was doing in class yesterday, and she replied, "Oh, I was sleeping during the whole class." "You sure?" I asked again, but she said yes, nodding her head. Was my friend possessed? Could it be real?
Yeah, she
And
was
what she
possessed.
told me next made my face turn white and my heart drop. Oh yeah, while I was sleeping yesterday, I was at some church, and I saw a very beautiful stained glass window with a nun. I wonder who that nun was, though.
Oof. Was that end? Oh well, that wasn't scary. When you move out,
This is
don't
the
forget
story
to-
that
I
happened to
forgot.
me a few
I
years
didn't
ago. I was studying for the civil service examination. I came up to the big city to study, and while I was looking for the house to stay, I met one house owner. The middle-aged lady was so kind, and the price of the room was extremely cheap in comparison with the price at that time. My friends opposed and said the price is too cheap. They also told me to reconsider it, but my mind was urgent, so I just made a contract right away.
Bruh.
The room was pretty big, and the window was also wide enough so that I was satisfied with my room. But a few days later, a strange smell began to come up from under my bed.
Ew.
At first, it was endurable, but the odor was getting worse, so I couldn't sleep at all in my bed. I eventually begged the owner and ended up moving to the next room, which was far away from this room. Since that day, whoever moves to that room, they all moved out again because of the smell. A few people visited in a few days, and I heard the conversation between while they were taking out all the stuff and removed the wallpapers in the room. Ma'am, we had told you that it would stink. If you'd have done what we said last time, well, you'd have spent less money. And then she answered, embarrassedly, I didn't know it was going to be like this. They then began to remove the floor, change cement, and finally changed the whole room completely.
Wow.
Until then, I thought we were just remodeling the house. But after I heard the story of the room from the other people who lived around here, I eventually realized that I was totally wrong. It is said that a few months ago, one student committed suicide in the room. And the owner at that time, she ignored the cleaning company's word that she had to reapply the cement to remove the smell that had seeped into the floor. So she just chose wiping off the blood of the body by reason that it was expensive. The cement looks hard just by looking at it, but because of the porosity, it's known that the cement has lots of small holes like sponges.
True. Yep.
But what if someone was murdered or the dead body was left unattended for a few days? When the blood or such thing flows downwards, it starts to rot inside and then stinks. In addition, if the dead body is left unattended for a few days, the waste begins to come out and the fat flows out when it starts to decay. Like the blood and the waste are hard to clean, as you know.
Yep.
As soon as the smell penetrates through the concrete hole, you would not be able to get rid of the bad smell no matter what you do. Therefore, it's said that cement should be removed altogether because the smell would not be gone of this kind of house. Although I wasn't staying in that room at that time, I kept feeling uncomfortable. Eventually ended up moving a while later.
Oof.
I would like to say this to those who are currently looking for the new house. Even if a newly plastered house smells, or if you found any signs of partially cement floor, especially when the house is old, be careful. Because I'm sure that something would have been in that house already.
Don't tell me a jump scare will come. Oof. Blah 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 blah.
This happened to my older brother. When he was a college student, he joined a mountain climbing club. One day he went climbing in the high mountains located in South Korea with 3 of his club members. The mountain was so high up that they couldn't get up in just a day. So they
I'm not gonna watch this one because. What? I'm back.
first. So I'm here to post about a dream that I've been having as of lately. I've been having the same dream, and the story is very simple. I am on my laptop at my desk, and my older sister is writing a diary in her bed, and an extremely tall guy keeps trying to enter our room. He was literally so big that his chest touched the threshold, and I couldn't see his upper shoulder at all. My sister and I knew that he wouldn't be able to come in anyway, so we didn't care about anything and did our own things. He bumped his body trying to come in, then finally gave up a while later and went back. And at that moment, I woke up. But recently, he keeps cutting his body little by little. By the 3rd day, he hadn't been able to come in, but the day before yesterday, he was in front of the door, standing with his ankles. He cut off his foot. Of course, he couldn't come in either, and just yesterday, he cut off half of his calves. His shoulder was seen for the first time, but he has also kept bumping against the door. And this time was no different. What happens to me next if he cuts himself all the way to his knees?
Oh no.
Second,
How scary.
it's me again. I came back to post my recent experience. 2 days later, my worries became a reality. I had a dream again that day, and this time he really cut himself to his knees. I'm not going to explain all the details, but all I could see was his abnormally big mouth, and he was smiling brightly. Then
Oh,
I
that's
woke up.
creepy.
I was too scared to go back to sleep after just seeing his face. After that, I gave up on sleeping for a couple of days. I drank all night with my friends. Went to a handicraft workshop run by my mom. I was playing on my cell phone for a while and napped for a while, lying down on my mom's lap when I felt too tired. Then I fell asleep, shallowly, on the sofa, and the man was there in my dream as usual. Fortunately, I was able to wake up right away because I didn't sleep deeply. However, being scared, I called my aunt, who was interested in spiritual existence at that time. When I confessed that I was having a hard time because of this, she told me that she knew a shaman and asked me to go there with her. No one believed such a thing because my family were all sincere Christians. My aunt was also a Christian, but she took me to the shaman saying that the method would be much better than just praying. Well, I guess these poor little lambs must have been desperate. That day, when I went to see the shaman, she said this to us just as I went inside. When my aunt asked what I should do next, the shaman said, "I'll give you an amulet. Put it on your door. Because we don't know if he was just joking around or doing it for a reason. We have to give it a few more days." Then she continued, "After I came back home with the amulet, I put it on my door without my parents knowing. I fell asleep in my room comfortably for the first time. There was the man in my dream as I expected, but this time he wasn't standing, just sitting by the door and staring at me. I was inwardly admiring the effect of the amulets when I saw him like that. Just then, he began to imitate my dad's voice. 'Lord, please take care of my family and look after my lovely daughters as if they were your eyes.' He said a prayer like that almost every day, and while laughing, the man just recited the exact same prayer with my dad. Tears flooded with fear, and whether he thought that it was funny to see me crying, he began to mimic the barking of my dog this time. It was just surprisingly the same. Scratch the door and whine when I closed my door to study, and the man made the same sound, scratching his fingernails on the door. The next was the voice of my friend. The moment I heard his voice, I was so scared and creeped out. Eventually, I could wake up shortly afterwards while I was crying in my dream. I called my aunt right away, and we went back to the shaman again. And I think we have to raise our prayer to God and do some exorcisms sooner. I have been awake since that day. Of course, I've been eating my meals normally, but I kept losing weight because of a lack of sleep. I was going crazy. I'm still terrified even when posting this right now. If anyone has experienced the same thing as me, please help me out.
Oh my gosh, that was so scary.
My name is Mark, and this happened when I was 13 years old.
Okay, Mark, we're gonna end the video because we're not gonna watch your stupid videos anymore. Well, that was all for today. Hope you all enjoy. Now bye. I'm gonna fall asleep and hope a scary monster doesn't come out of my door. I'm not scared at all. Well, bye.